So the 4 core values of my hitting, my philosophy of hitting, and I'm sure you guys have the same philosophy in a sense. Number 1 is rhythm and timing. Then we got weight transfer, connection, and finish. So that's just a basis, really just overhead view. Within these core values, there's core concepts, right? And we'll get into that as we go through the different phases in this webinar. Rhythm and timing. So we got stance. This is the couple core concepts. Stance, load or gather, and then when do you start? Does anybody think there's like a set number of stances out there?
There's got to be hundreds.
Well, Cal Ripken had about 10, so.
That's right. Like for me, like in my professional career, I've used about 4 of them. We'll just watch this video really quick.
There's tall, squatted, open, closed, and just traditional. Most important, always be comfortable and confident. And always remember to maintain posture, be on the balls of your feet, and have a subtle stretch in your back hip.
Like for me, like the problem that I see like a tall stance is that sometimes it's easy just to rotate off of the ball. So I just kind of watch that. Like if you're too tall, it's tough to get into your legs. But then sometimes if you're too squatted, I feel like the first movement is up. So you kind of want to watch out for that as well. So
yeah, I try to look for if they look tight in their stance.
Yeah.
If they look nice and loose and they're kind of flowing through, then I don't mess with it too much. But if they look really tight to where it's slowing them down, that's when I try to get them to adjust a little.
Want to be loosey-goosey. I had a great coach in single A, Ryan Jackson. He told me to have spaghetti arms, right? And I carried that all the way until I was playing in the big leagues. And whenever I saw him, we'd always say spaghetti arms because he wants to see me nice and relaxed, nice and loose. And that's so important, Chuck. Thanks for saying that, man. So the question I want you guys to think when you guys watch this video clip is, which load do you see your players using the most? So I'll let it run through.
There are 4 different loads that I know or that I've done throughout my career. The high leg kick, the pickup foot down, the toe tap, and no stride.
In my opinion, I think each of them can serve different purposes, whether it's a base hit, going for power. I mean, if you're going for power, I think the high leg kick, obviously, with that momentum helps out. But then if you're just trying to make contact, you have 2 strikes on you, maybe it's the toe tap or the no stride.
No, that's a good point. I mean, that's what I put for a 2-strike approach. Like a lot of times I would just use the no stride. All right, so I'll just give you guys about 30 seconds to a minute if you guys can. So the question is, when should a hitter start his load or gather? Okay, I mean, it's anonymous, so does anybody want to share why they thought it was A or C? You don't have to, but.
I was just trying to think through. I haven't really thought about the exact point of it. Now, to let you know, my son said B, so he had it.
All right. So what was it? What was your explanation for?
No, I was just trying to think through visually, like when I might do it.
Right, I know, yeah.
And so I didn't know if it would be too long when the pitcher hands break or not. So
right,
that's good to work on. I've talked to my players about where to pick up the ball, but not necessarily where to start their load.
When to start is so important because I mean nowadays you look like a Johnny Cueto. I mean in the major leagues, I'm sure some little league kids, travel ball kids do the same thing, but they mix up their timing. They'll lift up their leg and they'll just hold it. And you can't start your load there. If you start your load, it's too soon. You're going to have to restart. So once the pitcher breaks his hands, then basically there's no turning back for the pitcher, right? Like he's coming. Everything, his weight transfer is happening. So that's what I would say is that's what I look to start my rhythm and timing is when the pitcher breaks his hands. And the release point is a little bit too late. You got to get into your legs a lot sooner than the pitch is released point. So thank you for answering that. We'll keep moving on. All right. So we move on. So that's rhythm and timing. That's the first core value. So we move on to weight transfer. And we're just this is very basic stuff. Like phase 1 and phase 2, we'll get more into the meat of it as the weeks go on, as this is a webinar series. So weight transfer, a couple core concepts. The backside load. You got to make sure you stay loaded. You don't want to drift into the pitch. We got linear weight transfer. And we got rotational weight transfer. And then a firm front side. So these are all basic weight transfer core concepts. Another question, what's the best? Is it linear or rotational weight transfer? Linear, rotational, or both? I'll give you guys about 30 seconds. You got the majority said both. And personally, I would agree with that. I mean, it's kind of a trick question, but both because, yeah, it's just at different times, right? And that's what I want to explain to you guys, like this on-base university, how they really helped me, like, open my eyes to the kinematic sequence. This is the kinematic sequence. You guys see it?
Yeah.
So the red line is the player's hips. The green line is the torso. The blue line is the shoulders. And the yellow brownish line is the bat or the hands. Right? And this is through K-Vest. If you guys ever heard of K-Vest, they put sensors on your hips, on your torso, on your front shoulder, and on your hand. So with
You just did that recently, right, Adam?
Yeah, I just did that because On Base University came in and did that, and they had me demo
With
it.
the K-Vest, right? It was on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, I posted the video, yeah.
Yeah.
And they showed me my kinematic sequence. The blue, my shoulder, and my torso were on top of each other. See, you want these waves to be exactly like this. This is the efficient kinematic sequence. You want these waves to be on top of each other like this. But see, the red goes first, the red's first, then the green goes, then the blue, and then the bat, right? And I'll explain this as we go, like later on. I'm just trying to scratch the surface with this, but this stuff is really interesting. But the reason why we're talking about this, because you can relate this to weight transfer, right? Because your hips go first. That's the linear weight transfer. Your knee drive has to pop, but your torso, the green, right, and the blue, your shoulder, need to stay back in a sense. It happens really quick. Like I liken it to, you can't see it. It's like microscopic, but it's like how a baseball player's or a pitcher's arm lays back when he's pitching. You can't see it, but in slow motion, that thing is like all the way laid back. And just like hitting for weight transfer, that separation between your hips and your upper body is happening, but you just can't see it. But this kinematic sequence shows it. Like sometimes, like a bad kinematic sequence, the hips don't fire first, the torso will fire first, or the bat will fire first. And that's just going to cause a leak, problems with your bat speed, power, everything is just. So anyway, weight transfer. So let's get back to the poll. Let's see what you guys. So most of you guys said both, right? And I would agree, like I said, because they both happen and they're both equally important, but they just happen at little bit different times, like really quick. So, and there's arguments too, like that your lower half shouldn't go before your upper body. And I completely agree with that because you don't want to like force it. You know, you don't want to like, I don't know, I don't want to try to stand up, but you try to like to force it, it's going to be all discombobulated, but there's obviously a lot of drills you can do to make sure that they're in good sync with each other. But we'll touch more on the kinematic sequence as we go through this, but hopefully that opened up some eyes and hopefully it's not too confusing for everybody. So, okay, I'll do another poll. So Best weight transfer. What do you guys think? Does anybody want to tell me why A wouldn't be a good weight transfer?
Weights on the back leg.
Weight's all in the back leg. So he probably didn't, there was no acceleration into the ball. It was more of a defensive swing, right? Like kind of go east to west, right? That's going to cause a recoil. Bob, thank you. I know it's kind of, some of this is kind of fundamental, but just to see it. And how come it's not C?
There's very little rotational.
Yeah, there's no rotational. The knee drive is trying to happen, but there's no rotational. So yeah, best weight transfer is linear rotation with rotation. Linear weight transfer with rotational weight transfer, which is B. So on to connection. So we got rhythm and timing, weight transfer, now connection. So there's early connection, swing plane, connection to contact. So early connection, swing plane, and connection to contact are the core concepts of connection. Let's see here. So we got Ken Griffey Jr. This is kind of a bad picture, but early connection. So you see his body, the angle of his posture right here. The blue line is his posture, and his bat as that 90-degree angle back there. A lot of kids, you guys see that red line?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of kids are too upright, and then other kids are have their bat laid back like that, right? In that position. So that's a good thing to recognize. And if it's laid back like this, they're going to have an east to west swing. Right? They're going to come around the ball a lot. And if it's up and down like this, they're going to be too steep. They're going to be in and out of the zone too quickly. Bob, you got a question?
Yeah, with the bat being more flat like that, is that where kids will start to cast more?
Cast, for sure. And that's early, and that's what they lose early connection. Let me see this video. This video will kind of explain it. I kind of said it already, but I'll let you listen to it.
Place this paint pole or PVC pipe between your legs, just right out in front of you, and that's going to represent the body tilt. Make sure you hold the pipe in your top hand and hold your bat in your bottom hand and cross your top hand over your bottom hand to create this angle. This is 90 degrees right here. So this is where you should be at when you're hitting.
Just like Griffey.
Now, if it's less than 90 degrees, you're going to be steep to the baseball, and you're going to be in and out of the zone. But if it's more than 90 degrees, you're going to be long and loopy, and your bat's just going to drag through the zone.
But it doesn't have to be perfect, but that's kind of like the image that the player needs to have, like Ken Griffey Jr., right? So there's his body tilt again. And again, 90 degrees. That's that bat angle that you want at impact.
So here's some other components of swing connection at impact. Your top hand palm must be facing up, and your bottom hand palm must be facing down towards the ground. This move should happen naturally. The only concern for me would be that if your top hand palm is facing down towards the ground, that means that you've rolled your wrist over too soon.
But it gets you thinking. So this is a great drill that I actually started doing 2 years ago, back in 2018, when I was in Columbus playing in AAA. So I'll just let you watch it.
This is how you do the drill. Place a connection ball between your stomach and your lead elbow, which is the elbow closest to the pitcher. So using the connection ball, take 2 rounds of 5 swings off the tee. Then the coach will stand at a 45-degree angle in front of the hitter and underhand front toss from that angle. When you do this drill, make sure the hitter stays on plane with good direction all the way through connection at impact. You will know the hitter's doing the drill correctly if he hits the ball right back at the coach.
So that's a really good one. And it's really uncomfortable for the hitters at first. It was uncomfortable for me too to put that ball there. But just neurologically, it tells the hitters to keep their hands close to their bodies, you know, and it'll prevent that. It'll keep them that early connection, right? So that is connection. And then finish. We're not going to hit too much on finish tonight. this is all just basic stuff, but I like saying finish north, right? That east to west swing is going to get you in trouble. It's going to cause recoiling. You're going to be in and out of the zone. You're not going to be offensive. You're not going to be able to accelerate into the baseball by finishing east to west. Like east to west, boom, like this. You want to finish up high. And even in this picture of me right here when I was with the Diamondbacks, I feel like I can have a little bit higher finish. I finished with two hands, but I mean I can finish higher. And I feel like when you finish higher, you have more of an offensive swing because you're accelerating into the baseball. So I would encourage your young hitters to finish north, finish high.
Adam, I have a question
Yeah,
about
John.
that.
Yeah.
So what is your thoughts on staying connected to the whole swing with two hands versus when you let go of the bat as you're finishing north?
It's a great question because that's what we're going to talk about next.
Oh.
Yeah. What a student of the game. So for me, finishing with two hands, I usually finish with two hands when I felt like my swing was long. And I knew I just wanted to be short to it. I would just use two hands, and I would finish. I wouldn't really finish. I mean, I really wouldn't be too concerned about finishing high. I would like two hands. It's more just getting to the baseball and then finish as high as you can, right? Like kind of what I'm doing in the picture right here. But with one hand, it's when I don't feel like I'm really accelerating into the ball. Like I feel like I can get more length, or if I'm not driving the ball into the gaps, like I know I can. Then I feel like I'm cutting off my swing, because with two hands, it's easy to cut off your swing. Boom, boom. Like boom, in and out. East to west. You can be really susceptible. But if you want to get better lane through the swing and stay through the zone a lot longer, I would use a one-hand finish. And you can see that in a lot of kids if they're in and out of the zone. Or if they're not using, like I said in that one video, the top hand palm up, bottom hand palm down. If you see them rolling over too soon, another reason to use the one-hand finish.
Do you think the two-hand would be more of like a two-strike swing? I know there's a lot of talk about Rizzo on the Cubs, how he really adjusts things for two strikes.
Love it, yes. Yeah, it's just like going back to the rhythm and timing, like the load, doing like the no stride. It shortens everything up, right? You're just going to, I guess the two hands just get you right to the baseball, just a short, direct swing. You're not worried about trying to drive the ball and get lane through the ball. And obviously that's so important when there's a guy, especially when there's guys on second and third base, because that one run can make the difference between winning and losing a ball game, So that's a great question. That was Chuck, right?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's finished. It was quick. We'll go into it. I'll show you guys a couple drills as we go through phase 1, phase 2. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this first session. You guys will come back. So again, 4 core values: rhythm and timing, weight transfer, connection, and finish. And again, there's core concepts within all of these. And just figuring out what your hitter needs. In one of these categories, there's something that's causing a hiccup in his swing. And it's probably just a small adjustment. Or it could be 2. It could be 2 of these things. Heck, it could be all 4. It's been all 4 for me sometimes. But, all right. All right, so guys, this is the hitting course. If you guys were interested, I guess, John, you signed up. But if you guys want to check it out,
every penny.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Seriously, I don't know if I told you this, Adam.
What's up?
Within the first day of me being on the courses, I literally found some stuff that I was able to utilize with some of the kids on the team that I'm helping out with. And it was specifically with finishing north. Yeah. And that's why I was curious on that question.
So, oh, cool. Oh, that's what you made. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I really put a lot of hard work and time into it, like to try to break it down to the molecular level, but try to make it as simple as possible. But I don't know if you guys are interested. And since you guys are here on the webinar, it shows me that you guys are super interested in this and helping your kids out. So if you guys are interested, that's a discount code if you guys want. And you guys can make comments in there too. Like every video has a comment that you guys can connect with me, and it comes right to my email, and I'll attend to it and try to get back to you guys as soon as possible. And then I'm just gonna open it up for questions, guys. Like anything, whether it's hitting, fielding, mental stuff, philosophy. If you guys had anything on your mind, I'll just kind of be hanging out for the next 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, Chuck.
So in some of your videos, you've got that wedge that the kids are stepping on.
Yeah.
I think I asked a question on one of those, but I'm still trying to place it. Is that so that you start the linear movement before the rotational? Is that the purpose of that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of kids have a tough time driving that back. It's like the inner back big toe, like the inside of your back big toe drives, which causes your knee to drive. But a lot of kids, like that squish the bug theory, they kind of hang back on their weight transfer. So the wedge is super helpful. And there's a great drill, the step back drill that I do at all the camps that I've been doing. You just basically step back onto the wedge, and it prevents you from swaying back. A lot of kids have that sway back. You guys understand the sway? Let me see if I can get my camera better. So the sway, right? This is sway, right? And a lot of kids do it because they're trying to generate that weight transfer, but it should be locked in. You gotta get a wide angle lens, right? It's gotta be like locked in. Right, so you're driving, you're not swaying, no sway. It's just you're ready to drive. Boom. And the wedge helps you with that for sure.
What's the wedge made of that you use?
It's just like a yoga wedge. It's styrofoam, or I guess it's what is it? I guess styrofoam. It's not like styrofoam. It's like almost like a mat.
Okay.
Have you seen one of those yoga blocks? It's like hard.
I can look for it. I'm sure there's something
I
like
can send you the link, Chuck. I have your email.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link after we get off.
Okay, cool.
I'll send you the exact ones that we use. And I use them all the time. I use them for almost every drill we do. Because at our camps, I do like 6 different drills, 6 different stations.
Okay.
And almost every station has that wedge to make sure that they do linear weight transfer to get that feeling.
Yeah, I've been guilty of really focusing on the rotational.
Yeah.
And trying to keep their hands in. And so if I can help them with the linear and then that drill where you're holding the ball within your left arm.
Yeah, stay on plane.
Then that seems like a natural way to help them keep their hands inside, to help them feel it.
Right, 100%. Because if you say keep your hands inside, I feel like a lot of kids will start pushing. They won't use their lower half. That kinematic sequence, remember?
Yeah.
Like that, you want to make sure that their hips do drive first, and then their torso, then their shoulders. But if you're telling them to just keep their hands inside, they could have a tendency to just push and just not use their lower half. And they could get away with it. At 12 years old, 14 years old, they could get away with the push.
But the earlier you can get them in that right sequence, the better.
Exactly, and that starts with the ground up. I'll talk about it probably maybe as we go along, but the ground reaction force. And I mean, I see Pat Mish actually joined in. And Mish, I'm not sure if your audio works. So Pat and I are really good friends from Western Michigan, and Pat pitched in the big leagues for like 4 or 5 years, Mish.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. So Mish, like just about timing, like timing a pitcher, like isn't that your job as a pitcher to disrupt the hitter's timing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to screw you up. Because if all I have is let's say I just have a fastball that day, right? There's a lot of guys who, even when runners aren't on base, a good example is Nelson Figueroa. When he was playing in the big leagues, he would go from the windup, but then his windup was consistent. The hitters would time him.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, later on in his career, he went from the stretch, and he could do a high leg kick, he could do a slide step, he could do, hold for a little bit longer, like Japanese guys. So, yeah, I mean it's a huge part of. That's the game of baseball right there.
Yeah, because once hitter gets comfortable, it's just dangerous. Hitters.
I wasn't even a good hitter, and as a pitcher, I had to hit sometimes in the National League. Eventually, obviously, I'm gonna see fastballs, and I didn't hit. I hit like 2 games my senior year of high school, and then didn't hit at all in college, and then first year of pro ball. So I'm like 5, 6, 7 years out, and then all of a sudden I've got a time 93, 95. Well, after 2 or 3, just being athletic, I was able to time it. Now, was I going to get a hit every single time? No, but I was able to get the timing down and figure it out. I'm not even
Right. But John, go back to your question. Yeah, they're going to be in a good hitting position as long as they can repeat that. As long as they can really pay attention and see the pitcher break his hands. I think that's where, but they got to be. What's that, Mish?
It's also keeping those hands back too, like on a changeup.
Yeah.
So once they're in that good position, their hands break, and then they see enough off-speed pitches. You want to hit the fastball, but then if you can keep your hands back on a changeup, when your front foot gets down, but it's seen a lot over and over.
No, for sure.
Sorry.
That's all rhythm and timing. It's important. And as we go on through this series, it'll be we'll understand a little bit better about rhythm and timing and some drills to do to help that. Is there anything that you guys want to learn? Is there anything that you guys want to get from this webinar?
Adam, I think for me, the mental approach for high schoolers, just teaching the mental aspect and thinking through an at-bat, going in there with a plan, having a plan as you, take that at-bat.
So that's Justin?
Yeah.
All right. That's great, man. Okay. Let me take down a note. Yeah.
For me, it's those.
I would second that one.
Yeah. For me, I was just going to say, I really appreciate those things like when do you start your load? Those things that are kind of easy that you can say, you can teach a young hitter, this is when you do it. So it removes some of that ambiguity. Right. And they can really get in the right rhythm and timing. Those little tips are things that you may think like, oh, wow, those are obvious. But when you can teach somebody and put the right words in a coach's mouth to help these young kids figure things out and give them something tangible that they can see or look at or touch and feel, those are the things that I really appreciate.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like get the same verbiage, get the same, something clear, like a clear cue that you can give to your player, and it resonates with them. He gets it, he grasps it because it's simple.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I like the idea that you did with the ball, where it actually gives them without having to tell them what to do. It just kind of puts them in the spot to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times that I'm telling them stuff, it looks like I'm talking gibberish to them, and I don't know how to put it exactly. And then you do something like that, and it just gets them where they need to be, and then they get the feel for it more than anything.
That's correct. Yeah, there's a lot of those that I do, more of a feel. Like you get the feel without even saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like magic in a sense.
Hey, Adam, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I would love it. Yeah.
I was with Nate Trotsky. I don't know if do you know Nate Trotsky at all?
I'm sure I do.
Trotsky baseball.
Possibly.
I did a seminar with him last week, and he actually talked a lot about breathing.
Breathing is huge, man.
And so I don't know, you being major leaguer, I mean, was that a major importance, or was it something that you were cautiously aware of, or is it something you just kind of automatically did as you approached the bat?
All the time. Like, I made sure it was part of my routine on deck. I made sure I breathe. I always take 2 deep breaths when I'm on deck, and I make sure I take 2 deep breaths when I was in the batter's box, stepped out. And there's been times where actually slow pitchers down. I remember like Mark Burley. You remember the left-hander Mark Burley?
Yeah.
This guy works super fast. He's going fast. He wants to speed up the game. And I would step out every single pitch, and I would take 2 breaths every single pitch. And I remember AJ Przinsky behind home plate. I could hear him say, "Are you serious? Let's go." So I didn't care though. I'm like, I know I need to breathe, especially against Mark Burley, because it's messing up his game. I'm sure. So breathing's huge, but not only on deck and in the batter's box. This breathing thing needs to be done before the game every day. That's when it needs to happen. And when you're breathing, you need to have your eyes closed and imagining success. You have to to the finest degree. Like, you have to close your eyes and see the ball coming into your hitting zone, the wood bat cracking on the sweet spot, it flying over the shortstop's head by an inch and landing on the green grass in the outfield. And you standing on second base, like, giving a clap. Like, you have to be that specific with your mental training, and that starts with the breathing, though. And that's a whole exercise. You have to do that.
Okay.
And when I didn't do that, I would stink. That was terrible. And it takes a lot of work, though. That's the thing. Like, people think, oh, yeah, mental exercise. Like, no, it's like lifting 300 pounds. Like, it's not easy to do, to concentrate and make sure you get that detailed image in your brain, because once it's happened in your brain, it's happening in the game for sure. So
that's awesome. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Mitch, do you want to touch on your mental? I'm sure as a pitcher too. I mean, we got about 5 more minutes. I know everybody probably wants to get going.
The breathing side, I used to do similar things. If the game was kind of speeding up, or if I didn't have a good inning, or if I felt like my heart was pumping before I'd even get out there, just, after warming up, whether it was a big game, whether it was just, I don't know, I was nervous for some reason, or, whatever it was. If I felt like my heart was speeding up, I'd breathe through my nose. And sometimes I would close my eyes. Sometimes I would just stare off at something in the distance. But I'd breathe through my nose, hold it for as long as I could, and then slowly breathe through my mouth. And I'd do that anywhere from about 4 to 8 times.
Right. So it's important for you. It's important for your routine, man.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
And then there's other days when, when I'm not feeling that and I'm calm, I go out there and, sometimes I didn't do it. But, when you're going in to face some good guys, whether it's
Rosales
out of the bullpen or I'm warming up. Like, I remember my first start in Japan. I got called up to the big leagues there, the Ichigan, and it was kind of intense because they want perfection. And they were like watching me like a hawk, like nobody had ever done, even in the big leagues here, in my warm-ups and like every single thing that I did. And it was just like, it was odd to me. And then they started calling my pitches and telling me to throw a first pitch changeup before I never even faced this team before. They had first pitch changeup of the game. What do you mean first pitch changeup? Fastball, you know? What am I changing off of? I thought that was my best pitch in warmups. Anyways, so I couldn't shake off there. If I shook off, the catcher just kept putting down the same side. So breathing was huge. Now that game didn't last a long time for me. But just to calm myself down and, you know, try to go out there and, I mean, when somebody else is calling the game for you and you don't feel comfortable with it, I never threw a first pitch changeup in a game to start, you know, ever. Even though my fastball was like a changeup, but
That's tough.
you know. Anyways, so yes, I agree with. Is it Trevleski?
Trotsky, Nate Trotsky.
Trotsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think breathing is great.
That's a great, so important. The mental side of the game is so important. And there's actually this great app. I'm not sure if you guys. I would start doing it with, you know, high school kids, but it's called Headspace. Have you guys heard of it before? I mean, I know the one with LeBron James is called Calm. I've never done that one before, but Headspace, it's really great, man. Like for kids and for even like our age, like even like trying to go to sleep at night, if you're having a tough time sleeping, like it's some really good mental exercise. It's called Headspace, so highly recommend that too.
And if you ever wanted me on again, I could go. There's a lot more on the mental side on my end. So besides the breathing,
that'd be awesome.
There's a ton. There's a lot of depth to this stuff. So
because as a coach, I mean, you can teach these kids all the fundamentals, but it's really, I think it's the mental aspect of the game that they just don't really understand. The mental, you know, the baseball IQ aspect of how important that is towards a game.
That's right. Yeah. All right, well, guys, thank you all so much for being on, and hopefully you guys liked it and got something out of it. And we're just kind of more of an intro. Hopefully next week a little bit more in depth and touch on a little bit. We'll stick with rhythm and timing next week and talk a little bit more about that. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. And you guys have a good night.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thanks very much, Adam.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.